the world end, or nearly end, many times on the screen in other films, but not quite, never quite like this, I think. Could you just say a little bit about why you wanted to make a film about the end of the world? It struck me when you were introducing the film that it sounded like you really wanted to make a film about love. You said.
Well, I was making a film about relationship, basically about that. I mean, about two people, and, where it's at right now, whether right now it's 2012 or this, any other time. I mean, the idea that it's the end of the world, I don't know if it was secondary, but it wasn't, it was there. And the fact that if it's the end of the world, that's it. Anything you have to say, anything you want to do, especially between the two, it's right then and there. Anything you want to say, anything you don't want to say, has to happen at that moment. I think that gives it that tension. We weren't interested in, this is a neuroscience project about, how the world is going to end. Anyway, let me just say one thing. Everyone knows Peter's the producer, Frank is designer, editor, DP, and our actor. So, it's actually, I don't know if a treat is the word, but the fact that all these guys are in one place at one time. So, take advantage of it.
Actually, since we have so many people on stage, I'm going to just open it up right away and take questions from the audience. Hands. Yes, somebody's standing up there. Yes, sir. Yes, you.
Hi. Maybe just a projector, but to me it looks like, for the director of the DP, to me it looks like it's shot on something not film, maybe red, maybe DSLR.
Red.
Shot on red, yes.
Great. Just want to hear your thoughts on, the future of these kinds of formats you like working about.
Question about cinematography that maybe Abel and Ken can address. Actually, Abel, I think is this the first fiction film that you've shot on digital?
First fiction.
Yeah.
Well, it depends if you call Chelsea or non-belief fiction.
Yeah. I got, before I do anything, is Francie here? Is she still here?
Who?
Francie. Francie, this is, she was the focus puller on it. She's here. And I have to say that, and you know what? She was the focus puller. She's responsible for those images being so in focus. And my ex-wife, too, was the focus puller on Driller Killer, who started both of those are heroic people. Digital, what are we talking about?
Did I say something about focus?
Focus is a philosophical.
As much as I love film, it's inevitable. These electronic capture seems to be, if you try to fight it, you're going to lose, or we're going to lose. I like to listen to records. I love an analog sound. I'm a dinosaur. That's it. The digital stuff is huge. The thing about this film is, we were severely limited by budget.
You're kidding.
No, I know. It's a big surprise, even to me. But the fact is that...
budget is a philosophical concept.
Focus and budget.
Focus and budget. There we go. At any rate, my job as a cinematographer is to make the image. So you give me a box. It's got a lens. It's got it's got something to view, a viewing system, and then Redman complains about the stuff being out of focus, and that's the way it is. My job is to make the image under his direction. My job is to make her look as good as I can possibly make her. Thank God she looks as good. And, I've seen Willem naked so many times. I mean, an old girlfriend. So,
actually, let me just, I'd like to bring Willem and Shanyn into this, since, you've both worked with Abel several times on different films. Go-Go Tales, you were both in. That was 4 years ago. I'm wondering if you could talk about whether this was a different experience. This is much more of an intimate chamber piece compared with Go-Go Tales, which was an ensemble. And Shannon or Willem?
Well, every day with Abel was a different day and a different exciting and interesting things happening. But this was much more, I mean, believe it or not, for me, much more like fleshed out sort of script and much more. We've been working on this idea of this movie for a really long time. It's been percolating for several years, so for me it was much more specific than Go-Go Tales. And also I think our relationship was much more different too. Much more trusting.
This is the third time I've worked with Abel, and each time it gets a little better, I think, as far as trust and a shorthand. So we can work looser. So, more trust, looser.
Yes.
Hi. What happened with the first canvas that she was working on, and then how the second one kind of came about? And what was the direction of the first canvas? Making and creating it and spending time on it, and then the second one was just automatically there?
The question is about...
That's not true at all. Well, Frankie's a painter himself. Where's Spencer? Yeah, let him take the brunt. Where's Spencer? He's a painter. Come on, Spencer. Yo, Spencer, stand up. Because this was his house. You know, in a film like this, to find a location is like, if you don't have it, don't shoot it. And one day, we ended up in Spencer's house. And I'm looking at these paintings. And I'm looking at the place. You know, I was imagining a super high-rise in Madrid or Tokyo. And now we're back on Delancey Street. You know, but it was the place, and Spencer was the painter. And between Frankie and Spencer, and then, you know, Shannon acting it out. But Frankie, talk about the painting in terms of what was
when you're doing a film, you have to have a few, obviously you need a few paintings. Spencer was, made himself available to, you know, create this work. Now, you know, in the artistic process, you're gonna go further than maybe you want to go. You're gonna pull back a little. You're gonna go advance. Okay. Okay. We were using different canvases, but it was one painting being advanced. We didn't have the time to dry all the paint before and use the same paint, the same canvas. Okay. So we did a little bit of artistic shorthand with the different canvases. But ultimately, had we had a lot more time, we would have let the paint dry, and we would have went right on top of that. If that's the question. I mean.
Yeah. What is the question? Did the paint change? No, it's a good question. You right.
Oh,
the serpent. Okay. Oh, the serpant at the end.
There was some effect stuff that was like non-painterly.
No. What she's saying is, what she did was, she imagined the painting done. In other words, that snake at the end wasn't painted. That was either what she was, in her mind that she was going to paint, that she didn't have the time to paint, or what drove her to paint what she did paint. I mean, really, who knows what the...
Well, I think we did want the Ouroboros, which is the snake eating its own tail, just a symbol of, you know, you're born, you live, you die, and just that constant cycle. So that was hopefully what she was going to get to, whether or not she succeeded, whether it existed in her mind or just in the painting itself is the question.
I don't think we're ever driving toward a realistic painting.
Oh, but it was Spencer.
But it was
No, but Spencer, you painted the painting. Talk on that a little bit. I'll be interested.
I don't really understand what the question is.
Neither do I.
Abel, they might be talking about the illustration that was shown.
Yeah, that's what I said. That was in her mind. Okay, we know that was in her mind.
And that represents what was going through this guy's mind. And then the painting, and that was an illustration by another artist that Abel found on the web. And then, what actually came out, Sky's painting at the end, was what you saw at the end. But there was a different illustration used
was painted. You know, I mean, he was painting that painting over the course of the time that we, I don't know, this is what we were doing. I'll tell you why, because what happens is, you know,
Can I have a swing?
drying, you know, part of painting is the painting drying.
No, in the beginning she's doing a lot of splattering and a lot of a certain kind of painting, and then there's lots of color, but I just figured she overpainted. Yes. We checked that, and towards the end, she works with that for a little while, and then she overpaints, and then basically goes
Just
to black,
the way the film
and
was
then
made.
does the shape of that Ouroboros. You aren't crazy, I'm with you.
That's exactly how the film was made.
Let's take one more question. Yes, sir.
By the way, the painting's for sale. All four of them.
Yes. The question is for Tony, the editor.
Yeah, hi, I'm Anthony Redman, the editor. I'm responsible for this. Before I even get onto that, I just want to acknowledge a couple of people who are in the audience also. Neil Ben Ezra, our sound supervisor, is up there. Please stand, Neil.
We had a few problems,
And Nicola Trombolino, are you here?
Yeah, Nico, where's Nico?
Where are you here? Are you here? Or do you split
He's
up?
gotta be here. Nico, stand up.
There he is.
Don't be shy, don't be shy.
I just want you to know that. Listen, we actually had a script, okay? But you know, it's just a leaping off point to where we finally get. You know, there's also a train of thought where possibly everything that we're witnessing is in Sisko's mind. That maybe, you know, I mean, if we're going to talk about the painting, we could also talk about the whole movie, you know. That maybe, you know, I mean, these are things that we bandy around and, you know, and try to make sense out of. You know, I mean, I had a script, a very short script, I might add. You know, I mean, we started with like about 24 pages. And so you try to augment whatever you have, and it grows. It has a natural growth of itself. You know, we are all sort of. Abel has a definite vision, and a lot of it you see with the spiritual material that's in there. The Geshe Michael, we have the Dalai Lama, we have Joseph Campbell, all these, and of course Al Gore, you know. So you can't miss him. And you know, these are just like in the script. These are just like little footnotes, you know. Then you get the material, and you have our actors start interacting with them, and then you have like Willem was like, you know, dealing with the Dalai Lama, and you know, and I get a phone call saying, I don't think you can use this, you know, because, you know, I'm sort of like I'm looking funny, you know, or, you know, I'm making faces, and, you know, but then when you start putting it together, you know, you say, man, this is kind of working, you know, and then you start drawing in this other material with Geshe Michael, which Abel had definite thoughts about that, you know, which he had a message that he wanted to deliver about, you know, life and death, and, you know, and love and spirituality. None of this stuff was in the script, really, you know, and it starts to flesh out a germ of an idea that's there in the script, and this augments it, and it builds upon it, and you get the vision that you see now, you know. It was a process, is all I can say. It's a process. And especially when you're working with this cat, it's a real process. I've worked with him a lot in the past, and you know, and I know what the parameters are, so you know, what can I say?